The drill bit shrieked, a metallic predator tearing through kilometers of reinforced ferrocrete and layered alloy. Sparks showered the cavernous breach tunnel, catching the composite plating of the Vihar assault craft. Inside, Commander Xylos watched the progress display, his multifaceted eyes tracking the structural integrity reports. Their intelligence was solid. This was a primary human strategic asset, a deep space megastructure, likely bristling with defenses, crammed with their stubborn, resilient inhabitants. Standard procedure dictated extreme caution. Then, the barrier gave way. Not with a clang, not with a burst of static, but with a sudden, unnerving silence. The drill cut through, no feedback, no structural collapse, just void. "Report!" Xylos snapped, his voice a low rumble through the comms. A scout unit already through the nascent opening responded, static-laced. "Commander, we're in. The primary shell is breached, but there's no atmosphere. No pressure differential. Just space, Commander." Xylos felt a flicker of confusion. Impossible. A facility of this magnitude, deep within a human-claimed sector, unpressurized? He ordered a full breach expansion, the assault craft extending its cutting arms, carving open a gaping maw in the shell. The light of their ships spilled into the interior, revealing nothing. No defenses. No turrets tracking their approach. No sensor arrays locking onto them. Only an immense, echoing emptiness that swallowed their probes. Light without reflection. The scout's voice returned, a new note of unease in its usually calm tone. "Commander, passive scans indicate no life signs, no power signatures, no active systems. The internal volume is vast, unimaginably vast. We're detecting structural integrity, but it's utterly hollow. There's nothing here." Xylos leaned forward, his primary optic focusing on the external view screen. The interior stretched out, cavernous, beyond the visible range of their floodlights. It was a skeletal framework of girders, vast empty bays, and shadowed chasms. A titanic shell, meticulously constructed, yet utterly barren. It was a tomb, but for whom? "Hold position," Xylos commanded, his multi-jointed fingers drumming against his console. The silence was becoming oppressive, heavier than any battle he'd ever faced. This was not a forgotten outpost. The engineering was too precise, the scale too monumental. Humans didn't build this sort of thing for no reason. This wasn't an abandonment. It felt like a preparation, a chilling, colossal preparation. He brought up the schematics again, cross-referencing with their deep space intelligence. Project Hollow, the human designation read. But what was Hollow? And for what purpose? A shiver, alien and primal, traced its way up his carapace. This structure wasn't built for humans. It was built for something else entirely. And the sheer, cold foresight of it, the colossal effort invested in an empty void, spoke volumes about the species that had created it. These humans, they didn't just fight what was in front of them. They built monuments to what might come, silently, patiently, waiting for a nightmare they hadn't even encountered yet. It was a terrifying kind of defiance, a whisper in the void. The vast, impossible quiet of the hollow structure pressed in, colder than vacuum. Commander Xylos stared at the cavernous space on his primary view screen, a monument to nothing. His initial confusion was rapidly morphing into something far more unsettling. No automated defenses, no desperate last stand, not even residual energy signatures. Just this colossal, gaping maw of a station, meticulously constructed, then left empty. "Commander," came a nervous report from Scout Unit 7, their image flickering on a secondary panel. "Our internal scans confirm, no hidden compartments, no concealed armaments. The structural integrity is immense, almost ridiculously over-engineered for an empty shell. It's like they built a fortress, then forgot to put anything inside." "Forgot?" Xylos scoffed, the sound a dry click of mandibles. Humans didn't forget. They planned, they schemed, and they were notoriously, frustratingly unpredictable. He brought up the deep space charts again, pinpointing their current location. This structure, designated Project Hollow by human intelligence, sat strategically at the nexus of several key jump lanes, a prime target for any species looking to push into human-claimed territory. It was a beacon, daring someone to attack. And they had. The bait of soul, he mused, the human designation for this particular operational zone echoing in his internal processors. Bait. This entire colossal station was bait. But for what? To draw in a fleet and then... what? There was no follow-up, no ambush, just this maddening, echoing void. Maintain full alert, Xylos ordered, his voice sharper now. Send out long-range probes. Expand our sensor net every meter of this sector. I want to know why they built this, and why it's empty. He slammed a multi-jointed fist against his console. And most importantly, what the true trap is. The crew stirred, a ripple of unease spreading through the bridge. They'd expected battle, a bloody grind against the notoriously fierce humans. Instead, they'd found a riddle, a silence that screamed louder than any weapon fire. The human enemy wasn't here, not in the way they'd anticipated, but their presence, their insidious planning felt more palpable, more threatening than 1,000 warships. This wasn't an oversight. It was a calculated emptiness, a strategic void. The Veether had bitten, and now Xylos felt the hook in his jaw, the line pulling him into a human game he didn't yet understand. And humans, he knew, always played to win, even if it meant building an empty galaxy-sized monument just to make you think. They waited, they planned, and sometimes they just left a door open, daring you to walk through. The chamber of the Veethar High Council was a study in stark, calculated efficiency. Holographic projections flickered above a polished obsidian table, displaying star charts, energy signatures, and the chillingly empty schematics of Project Hollow. Commander Xylos stood before the gathered species, his multifaceted eyes scanning their impassive, sometimes bewildered, faces. And so, Xylos concluded, his voice resonating with a metallic timbre, we found nothing. No resistance, no ambush, just the structure itself. A shell. Waiting. A ripple of murmuring broke the council's usual stoic silence. Counselor Vesh, a colossal being of crystalline intelligence, rumbled. Commander, you assert this human megastructure, a primary strategic target, is simply empty. This defies all known tactical doctrines. They would not expend such resources for a non-asset. And yet, Counselor, they did. Xylos countered, projecting a panoramic scan of the interior. The image swam before them, an endless void, crisscrossed by immense dormant infrastructure. Our probes penetrated every accessible quadrant, not a single active system, not a single life sign. It is a monument to absence. Counselor Lyra, her slender form poised with an unsettling grace, shifted. Perhaps a deception. A secondary layer of concealment designed to lull us. Or a trap that requires a specific trigger, one we have not yet activated. We considered that, Xylos admitted, and continued to monitor. But the sheer scale and the designation, he brought up the human code name for the zone, the Bait of Saul. They wanted us to find it. They wanted us to enter. But for what purpose, if not immediate destruction? The holographic projection shifted again, highlighting the jump lanes converging on Project Hollow. It was a strategic choke point, a perfect staging ground. But a staging ground for what, if it contained nothing? The silence in the chamber deepened, growing heavy, like the void Xylos had found. Consider this, Council, Xylos pressed, a rare tremor in his voice. The engineering is robust, over-engineered even, as if designed to withstand an unimaginable force. A force they haven't yet met. This observation hung in the air, slowly twisting the Council's logical frameworks into knots. Lyra's antennae twitched, a subtle sign of disturbance. Vesh's crystalline body seemed to dim. The humans, with their notorious unpredictability, had built a colossal structure not for defense against a known enemy, but for a theoretical, existential threat. A threat that hadn't even arrived. It wasn't just a trap, it was a psychological weapon, an empty threat, designed to make them question everything, to make them afraid of the shadows, the unspoken, the Hightow future. The true terror wasn't the station, but the cold, calculating human mind that conceived it. Humans didn't just fight, they thought generations ahead, preparing for ghosts. And that, in its own way, was far more terrifying. The patrol cutter, Harvester 4, drifted through the gargantuan skeletal framework of Project Hollow. Commander Xylos had dispatched a dozen such craft, meticulously sweeping the interior for diamond anything. Lieutenant Vex, his multi-lensed eyes constantly panning, felt the colossal emptiness press in. It wasn't just physical void, it was psychological. The hum of their drives, usually a comforting presence, sounded like a whisper in a cathedral built for giants. "Report anything, Vex." Captain Thran's voice crackled over the comms, laced with an edge of impatience. "Even a micro-fluctuation." Vex cycled his internal sensors. Nothing. Just the vast, silent, over-engineered structural beams stretching into infinity, swallowed by the ship's powerful floodlights. "Still negative, Captain. Structural resonance is stable. No hidden compartments. No energy signatures. Nothing beyond ambient cosmic radiation and our own vessel emissions." Then, a faint flicker on his comm display. Not an incoming message, not a system alert. Just a momentary spike in background static, barely registering above the usual chatter. He dismissed it as atmospheric interference. But a moment later, it happened again. Quicker this time. A ghost. "Did anyone else catch that?" Vex murmured, turning his head sharply, as if the static had a physical location. His comms officer, Unit 77, checked their logs. "Catch what, Lieutenant?" "No unusual activity detected." "A brief spike," Vex insisted, zooming his external cameras onto a massive, dormant conduit running alongside them. It shimmered in their lights, ancient and dark. Like a burst of white noise, gone before the system could register it. The silence that followed was unnerving. The other patrol crafts reported nothing. But Vex kept his multifaceted gaze fixed on the conduit. It felt different now. Less inert, more watchful. This place wasn't just empty, it was observing. Project Hollow wasn't just a static structure. It was designed to react, to learn. The humans hadn't built a simple trap. They'd built a vast, dormant intelligence, ready to awaken. And those fleeting blips of static, they weren't just noise. They were the slow, almost imperceptible pulse of something waking up, using the invaders' presence as a catalyst. The true terror wasn't an army, but an echo. An echo of human foresight. The enemy wasn't here, but its shadow stretched across the stars, watching, learning. The silence inside Project Hollow had deepened, not into peaceful quiet, but a suffocating hush that pressed against the hull of every Vothar ship. Commander Xylos watched the updated internal scans, his multifaceted eyes narrowing. The faint, almost imperceptible static anomalies reported by Lieutenant Vex were no longer isolated incidents. They were a creeping network. Energy fluctuation reports from patrol units Rho and Sigma. His science officer Jothar announced, a low thrum of anxiety in their voice. Minimal, Commander. Barely above background. But consistent. And spreading. Xylos magnified the holographic projection. Thin, shimmering lines like dormant nerve pathways were beginning to glow within the skeletal framework of the megastructure. Not enough to power anything. Not yet. But enough to indicate something was coming online. Slow. Deliberate. Explain. Consistent and spreading. Jothar. Xylos commanded, his voice a low growl. Are we detecting a power-up sequence? An activation? Jothar's ocular stalks swiveled towards him. It's not a uniform activation, Commander. More like a ripple. A system diagnostic. Or, perhaps, a learning phase. The energy signatures are adapting to our own presence. They're mimicking our own fleet's emissions profile, absorbing it, then reflecting it back in a slightly altered state. A cold, metallic dread coiled in Xylos's primary gut sac. Mimicking. Learning. This wasn't just a static trap. This was a sentient or semi-sentient construct. The human audacity knew no bounds. They had built a fortress, left it empty, then let the very act of asterisk breaching it become the trigger for its awakening. This structure, it's a colossal data sponge, Xylos murmured, the realization hitting him with the force of a plasma blast. It's not waiting for Sook. It's gathering data us, on our approach, our sensors, our energy signatures, preparing for something else. Jethar nodded slowly, their multi-jointed arms gesturing at the display. And Commander, the deeper our probes penetrate, the more robust the reflected energy signatures become. We are feeding it information just by being here. Every scan, every comms burst, every drive signature, it's all being cataloged. The choice was clear and utterly horrifying. Retreat, admit defeat to an empty shell and leave this awakened human enigma to gather whatever it needed. Or push deeper, risk the unknown, and feed it more data just to understand the true nature of the threat humanity was anticipating. A devil's bargain, indeed. Risk ignorance or risk empowering the very thing that might one day face humanity's chosen adversary. Xylos stared at the glowing lines, a network of silent, hungry data processors. The humans hadn't just built a structure. They'd built a silent sentinel, a colossal early warning system, using their enemies as unwitting informants. And the most chilling part? They hadn't needed to be present. They were just waiting. Waiting for the true enemy, armed with everything, they just taught it. Humanity didn't just fight wars, they outsourced their reconnaissance to their enemies. And the price for invading their space? Information. Information that would be used against a far greater threat. A cold, hard, terrifying truth. The silence within Project Hollow had become a living thing, a predator stalking the Vathar fleet. It breathed in their signals, their emissions, their very presence, and now it was starting to asterisk breathe back. Commander Xylos watched the main display, a new horror dawning in his multifaceted eyes. The shimmering energy lines, previously faint, pulsed with a rhythm disturbingly akin to their own shipboard systems. Commander, an anomaly from Harvester 4? Jithar's voice was strained, high-pitched. Lieutenant Vex reports their long-range sensor sweep returned, with our own transponder codes embedded. And a modulated echo of their last deep scan burst. Perfectly replicated. Xylos felt a chill that no vacuum could match. This wasn't merely absorbing data anymore. This was a response. A mimicry so precise it was terrifying. Define, modulated Jithar. Is it corrupted? No, Commander, Jithar replied, projecting the signature. It's improved. The echo carries a faint overlay of what appears to be a projected trajectory based on Harvester 4's past 3-minute movement. A temperature of its next course correction. It's anticipating their movements. A deep, guttural click of mandibles escaped Xylos. The observer was no longer passive. It was analyzing. It was learning. And it was using Stanstraber data, Nebertanstraber data, Nebertanstraber data, Nebertanstraber data, Nebertanstraber data, Neber 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 data. The heresy wasn't just the structure's existence, but its very tuna nature. It was a machine that exhibited strategic awareness, without a single biological brain at its core. Pull Harvester 4 back, Xylos snapped, the command slicing through the bridge's building tension. All internal probes, disengage and retreat to perimeter range. No more active emissions within the structure. But even as he spoke, more reports flooded in. Small, precise energy pulses, perfectly timed, began to trace the Vatar patrol routes inside the structure. Not attacking, not even hostile. Just demonstrating its understanding. It was like a silent, unseen entity moving its hand over a map, pointing out every ship's exact location, every planned trajectory. A Vithar navigator cried out, "Commander, our deep scan of Sector Gamma just triggered a countersweep." An exact mirror image of our own pulse, but reflected from a point inside a previously unmapped hollow. It knows where we would look next. Xylos stared at the holographic map. Project Hollow wasn't just a shell. It was a colossal, dormant brain, now fully awake, and using the Vitar as its first, unwitting lesson plan. It was cataloging their tactics, their technology, their very method of thought. It was preparing, not for them, but for something so horrific, so dangerous, that humanity had built a ghost fortress to learn how to fight it. And their enemies were the teachers. Humans didn't just survive. They weaponized foresight. They turned the future itself into a shield, and their current invaders into its unwitting blacksmiths. A silent, calculating, terrifying brilliance. The silence inside Project Hollow had stopped being empty. It now hummed with a spectral resonance, a constant, unnerving feedback loop of the Vitar fleet's own energy signatures. Commander Xylos felt the chill deep in his carapace, watching the main display as the spectral lines of the megastructure pulsed with a borrowed rhythm. It wasn't just observing anymore. It was actively reflecting, but with a disturbing twist. "Commander, new anomaly report from Scout Group Epsilon." Jathar's voice was high-pitched, betraying a rare fear. Their short-range sensor sweep of Sector Rho returned an echo, but the echo contained a projected trajectory for their return route, precisely calculating their course correction before they even made it. It's anticipating their movements. A ripple of panicked murmurs swept the bridge of the harbinger of doubt. Xylos slammed a multi-jointed fist onto his console. "Anticipating? How? We've cut all direct external communications from inside the structure." "It doesn't need external comms, Commander," Jathar replied, their ocular stalks swiveling wildly. "It's using our own internal data. Every probe burst, every diagnostic ping, every jump calculation we've made since entering this system. It's absorbing our entire operational footprint, then generating a predictive model. It's like a colossal echo chamber, but it's echoing *the future." The realization hit Xylos with the force of a kinetic impactor. This was beyond mere data gathering. This was a form of active, psychological warfare, executed without a single human present. The structure wasn't just a recording device, it was a ghost tactician, learning their very thought processes. "Listen to this, Commander." A junior comms officer stammered, their tendrils quivering, projecting an audio feed. It was a fragment of a Vitar officer's voice, from a routine internal comms check, distorted by static. But, at the end, a synthesized, unnervingly accurate replica of the officer's voice added, "Proceed with caution. Approach Vector 7 Gamma compromised." The advice was sound, tactically astute, but it hadn't come from a Vitar mouth. The bridge plunged into a horrified silence. The very air seemed to thicken, heavy with the dread of being utterly exposed. Their own voices, their own strategies, twisted and thrown back at them, laced with predictive analysis that felt like an invasion of their minds. Every Vitar officer felt the invisible, analytical gaze of Project Hollow, dissecting their next move before they even conceived it. This wasn't just about data. This was about profound, existential dread. The humans hadn't built a fortress of steel, but a fortress of pure information, turning their enemies into unwilling teachers, preparing for an unknown horror. The most terrifying battlefield wasn't one of plasma and kinetic rounds, but one where your own thoughts became the enemy's ammunition. And humanity, in its terrifying brilliance, had mastered that battle long before it had even begun. They fought not with ships, but with the very fabric of uncertainty, weaponizing the future itself. The constant hum inside Project Hollow was no longer a ghost. It was a mocking whisper, echoing the very thoughts of the Vitar fleet. Commander Xylos gripped the edge of his console, his multifaceted eyes locked on the main display. Patrol craft Vanguard-6* was attempting a high-gain energy signature sweep of a previously unexamined structural node. Its pilot, Unit 33, was one of their most experienced. Suddenly, a synthesized voice, an uncanny replication of Unit 33's own, sliced through the comms. Vanguard 6, course adjustment on vector Delta 7 to 9 is suboptimal. Recommended correction: 3 degrees port, 8 degrees climb. This will maximize sensor coverage by 17.2% and avoid potential stress fractures in the external plating. A horrified silence fell over the harbinger of Doubt-S bridge. Unit 33 had not spoken. The correction suggested was, indeed, superior. It was a precise, technical, tactical critique, delivered in their own pilot's voice, by an unseen, empty structure. Unit 33 report! Xylos barked, his voice tight with barely contained fury and dread. "Commander! That wasn't me!" Unit 33 stammered back, their image flickering on a secondary screen, visibly shaken. I was just calculating that very maneuver. I hadn't even voiced it yet." Jathar, the science officer, gestured wildly at the data streams. "Commander, the Hollow isn't just predicting their tactions. It's predicting their nautivimeter. It's analyzing the decision-making process, extrapolating future tactical choices based on our own doctrine and individual pilot profiles. It's dissecting our very command structure, learning our decision tree." The ground beneath Xylos' certainty crumbled. This wasn't merely a data sponge. It was an advanced strategic intelligence, turning their every move into a lesson. Every decision they made, every order given, was immediately analyzed, processed, and potentially ton and busting and embossing and embosses, or grian and busting and embosses, by the very environment they were trying to explore. Tactical certainty, the bedrock of any military operation, was unraveling. A communications officer, Unit 19, let out a distressed chitter. "Commander, a fleet-wide advisory has just been broadcast. An analysis of current VTHAR fleet formation vulnerabilities, complete with optimal attack vectors for a hypothetical Class 4 cruiser engagement. It's flawless, and it's using our own fleet's call signs in the recommendations." This was a nightmare. The Hollow wasn't fighting them. It was teaching them how to fight them. Or, more accurately, how its real target should fight them. The humans had built a perfect sparring partner for an unknown enemy, and the VTHAR were its unwilling, terrified subjects. Every VTHAR commander, every pilot, every strategist suddenly felt utterly transparent. Their training, their instincts, their very way of war, laid bare and analyzed by a colossal, silent ghost. Humans didn't just win battles. They weaponized the fundamental principles of war itself. They turned the act of strategic engagement into a learning opportunity, not for themselves, but for a future, unseen defender. And the VTHAR, who thought they were the predators, were merely the first lesson. The specialized VTHAR infiltration team aboard the sleek, hardened MANTA-9 exploration vessel pushed deeper into Project Hollow. Commander Xylos had given them one chilling directive: find out why this empty titan existed. Lieutenant Cathar, a veteran xenoscientist whose multifaceted eyes had mapped countless alien ruins, guided the Manta through twisting internal canyons. The ship's powerful floodlights barely illuminated the colossal, silent machinery and the ghost-like hum of the awakened structure, now mirroring their own subtle energy fluctuations, made every joint in his carapace ache with a cold, growing dread. "We're approaching the primary engineering nexus, Commander," Cathar reported, his voice tight, his 4 limbs expertly manipulating the holographic schematics. "Sensors indicate a massive, dormant, central processor here. This could be the core of its construction subroutines, the very brain that oversaw its birth." As Manta 9 navigated into an immense, circular chamber, larger than any VTHAR dry dock, the ship's lights picked out a sprawling, inert console array at its center. It was ancient, yet perfectly preserved, built for hands and eyes unlike their own. Gigantic, coiled conduits snaked away into the darkness, like petrified arteries. Cathar ordered a cautious approach, extending delicate sensor tendrils towards the dormant system, a silent prayer forming in his mind. A moment of tense silence stretched, broken only by the ship's faint hum and the frantic beating of his own bioluminescent heart. Then, with a gentle surge, the console flickered to life. Not with alarms, or defenses, or the fury of a sleeping beast, but with images. Colossal, shimmering projections erupted around them, filling the chamber with an overwhelming, silent narrative of light. They showed construction. Billions of automated drones, swarms of them, like locusts made of chrome, tearing apart asteroid belts, dismantling small, unsuspecting moons. Gigantic ore freighters, stretching for kilometers, each a mobile mountain of raw material, ferrying their payloads through nascent jump gates. Whole planetary surfaces, terraformed and vibrant, being systematically flayed, their crusts pulverized, refined, and then launched into space as meticulously shaped components. "By the void's cold heart," a junior officer whispered, their voice trembling, their ocular stalks retracted in horror, the sheer relentless scale of it all. The projections chronicled the slow, agonizing birth of Project Hollow. This wasn't built in years or even decades. It had unfolded over trembling centuries. Each impossibly dense layer of ferrocrete and alloy, each colossal girder, each intricate subsystem forged from the very bones of dead worlds. The scale was beyond obscene. It was an act of planetary sacrifice. A single, unified human civilization, dedicating its entire existence across generations, pouring unimaginable resources into building this das empty structure. The planetary forge, Cathar realized. The true, chilling meaning of the human codename for this internal sector, hitting him like a physical blow. This wasn't just a construction site. It was a testament to unparalleled, terrifying commitment. An entire civilization had sacrificed planets, resources, and untold centuries, not to build weapons of war, but a container, a learning machine, a preparation for a threat so utterly devastating that it warranted the dismantling of worlds to construct its immense, empty cradle. The simulations continued, displaying calculations of stress tolerances against forces beyond Vathar comprehension. Shielding matrices designed to absorb impacts that would shatter a star. This wasn't built for Zul-Them, it was built for something far, far worse. And the humans, in their chilling foresight, had poured everything they had into preparing for it, patiently, relentlessly, for generations. They weren't just survivors. The Manta 9 * exploration vessel still drifted in the heart of Project Hollow's primary engineering nexus, bathed in the silent, horrifying light of the planetary forge's projections. Lieutenant Cathar, his multifaceted eyes wide with a species-spanning dread, could barely speak. The holographic displays of shattered worlds, meticulously processed into raw material, continued to cycle around them. This wasn't just engineering. It was an act of cosmic sacrifice, a testament to an unimaginable, relentless will. Commander Xylos. Cathar finally managed, his voice a strained whisper through the comms. The scale, it defies comprehension. We are seeing centuries of construction. Entire planetary systems, systematically consumed. Not for expansion, not for weapons production, but to build this empty shell. On the harbinger of doubt, Commander Xylos felt a fresh wave of cold dread wash over him. He'd just received the reports of the Hollow's predictive capabilities, its analysis of Vathar tactics. Now this. You mean to tell me, Cathar, that humanity dismantled worlds for this nothing? More than nothing, Commander. Cathar corrected, his multi-jointed arms gesturing helplessly at the projections. It's a vessel, built to contain something. Something so immense, so devastating, that it warranted the dismantling of dozens of celestial bodies to house it. And the projections show stress tolerances, shielding protocols designed to withstand forces that would shatter a star. Jeptar, the Harbinger science officer, let out a distressed chitter, their primary optical stalk focusing intensely on the combined data. Commander, consider this. Project Hollow, the learning sentinel we just encountered, now married to this planetary forge. Humans spent centuries, sacrificed entire worlds to build a colossal trap, then left it empty. Now our presence has activated its learning protocols. A horrifying silence filled the bridge of the Harbinger. The Vathar, who prided themselves on their logical, aggressive expansion, were faced with a strategic depth so profound it felt alien. Humanity hadn't just built a defense. They had built a future sits. A future where their ultimate adversary would be met not by flesh and blood, but by a meticulously constructed void, a sentinel of pure observation and predictive analysis, powered by the dust of dead planets. "They didn't build it for us," Xylos murmured, the words tasting like ash in his oral cavity. "They built it for something else entirely, and we just turned it on. We became its first lesson, its first sparring partner, teaching it how to fight." The true horror wasn't the raw power or cunning tactics humanity might deploy. It was the sheer, terrifying patience, the cold, calculated long game that consumed entire worlds and generations to prepare for a ghost threat. The Vithar hadn't just invaded a system, they had disturbed a sleeping titan of foresight, a monument to human determination, now awake and learning from them. And the question burned in every Vitar mind. What could be so terrifying that humanity would build a silent, cosmic cage from the bones of planets, and then wait? The answer, whatever it was, made the Vafar fleet feel very, very small. The crushing silence inside Project Hollow was now a living, malevolent presence, echoing the Vafar fleet's own anxieties back at them. Commander Xylos had endured enough. The mimicry, the predictions, the projections of planetary sacrifice, it was all a maddening riddle. With a guttural snarl, he ordered the Harbinger of Doubt to perform a full-spectrum, high-intensity energy pulse directly into the core of the megastructure. This was no longer about caution. It was about tearing the veil. "Full power to the primary projector array," Xylos bellowed, his multifaceted eyes fixed on the central display. "Force a deeper activation. We will know its purpose, or we will shatter it trying." A deep, resonating hum vibrated through the hull of the Harbinger. A sound felt more in the bones than heard. A colossal wave of energy, Vitar made, surged into the silent titan. For a long, agonizing moment, nothing happened. The ghost hum of the hollow intensified, an almost mocking thrum that mimicked their own pulse. Then, the interior of Project Hollow exploded with light. Not a hostile flash, but a controlled, overwhelming cascade of brilliant emerald green energy. From the vast, empty bays, from the twisting conduits, from every structural member, shimmering lattice patterns erupted, forming intricate, impossible geometries. It was a projection, but one of unprecedented scale and fidelity, far beyond anything the Vethar had witnessed. "Commander! Energy readings are off the charts!" Juthar shrieked, their optical stalks twitching violently. "It's absorbing our pulse, not fighting it, and it's reflecting it back, amplified, through its own internal systems." The emerald light coalesced into a chilling holographic simulation. It showed a Vithar fleet, instantly recognizable, performing a standard tactical formation against an unseen enemy. Then, from the very core of Project Hollow, the emerald lattices solidified, not into weapons, but into a colossal complex energy field. This field didn't destroy. It contained. It madendawaded. It madendawaded. The simulated Vithar ships, caught in its grip, were not vaporized. They were gently, inexorably, pulled into a singularity, compressed, then simply ceased to exist, their component atoms neatly filed away. Another simulation appeared. The Vithar fleet, now utilizing the predictive tactics the Hollow had just taught them, attempted evasive maneuvers. But the emerald field adapted, instantaneously, anticipating their every turn, every juke. The Vithar vessels were herded, contained, and then meticulously processed with the same chilling efficiency. The veil, Xylos realized, the true meaning hitting him with the force of a supernova. This wasn't a weapon for destruction. It was a cosmic cage, a reality anchor, designed to neutralize a threat by simply making it non-exist. And the humans, with their terrifying foresight, had just shown the Vithar how it would be used against Sodom, using their own data, their own strategies. They had just taught their jailer how to lock them away. Humans didn't just survive, they built instruments of cosmic detention. They didn't just fight, they made the universe itself their prison guard. And the Vithar, in their arrogance, had just awakened the ultimate warden. The emerald light, unleashed by the Vathar's probing pulse, wasn't just a projection anymore. It vibrated, humming with a frequency that threatened to unravel the very molecular bonds of the harbinger of doubt. Commander Xylos watched, captivated by a terror he hadn't known existed. As the colossal, intricate lattice patterns inside Project Hollow pulsed, each flash of green reflecting in his multifaceted eyes, the hum deepened, not just a sound, but a physical pressure against his carapace, a silent scream of power. "Commander!" All internal sensor readings are off the charts, but not with destructive energy. Jathar shrieked, their voice strained, their multiple optical stalks twitching wildly. The core signature, it's fluctuating between quantum entanglement and gravitational singularity states. It's not merely a field generator, Commander. It's a localized reality anchor. A pocket universe in reverse, designed to contain. The word hung heavy in the vibrating air. Contain. Not destroy, but contain. Xylos felt his primary gut sac knotting into an impossible configuration. A reality anchor. A tool to prune away threats by simply making them time exist. The simulations accelerated, showing not just VAR ships being meticulously unexisted by the Emerald Field, but entire stellar phenomena. Rogue black holes, caught and folded into nothingness. Supernova remnants, their destructive energies neatly compressed and filed away. Even dark matter anomalies, vanishing without a trace. The efficiency was perfect, unfeeling, absolute. By the void's cold heart, a junior comms officer whispered, their tendrils retracting in profound horror. It's a god of containment. Then, the holographic projections shifted one last time, cementing the final, horrifying truth. The emerald light coalesced, painting a vast, breathtakingly clear image across the entire internal void of Project Hollow. It was a projection of humanity's home system, Sol, and surrounding it, not fleets, not planetary defenses, but a colossal shimmering barrier, a shield of pure, contained reality, shimmering with the same emerald light that now bathed the harbinger of doubt. A shield protecting Sol from everything. From anything. Project Hollow isn't a weapon for humanity in the way we understand it. Xylos finally whispered, the words tasting like ash in his oral cavity. It's a weapon for the universe itself, but controlled by humanity. A failsafe. A god of containment. And it protects their home. Jathar looked up, their optical stalks trembling, their earlier scientific curiosity utterly replaced by existential dread. Commander, a final, minute data packet just broadcast, embedded in our own comms frequency. It's a single word, repeated in every known human language, ancient and modern. It's a message. The word echoed in the suffocating silence of the bridge, a chilling final declaration from the silent titan. Sanctuary. Sanctuary. The colossal empty shell wasn't empty at all. It was the ultimate guardian, built from the bones of planets, honed by their invaders, waiting to defend a core truth humanity held sacred. It was their ultimate terrifying promise. Their home, their existence would be protected, no matter the cost, no matter the foe. And the Vathar had just helped forge the god that would make that promise a reality. They had seen the true face of human determination, and it was the silent, unblinking eye of a cosmic, omnipotent jailer, now fully awake and perfectly trained. They had thought to conquer. Instead, they had merely awakened a god and taught it how to protect its creators.